So welcome everybody. I'm so happy to see everybody here. What a great crowd for poetry. And this is a great day in the world because this is poets all over the world. 100,000 Poets for Change is the name of this event. We're the Santa Barbara rendition. And if you've been on the internet, if you've looked up 100,000, there's so many different ways to do it. 100,000 Poets for Change, 100 T for 1,000, P for Poets, C, 100,000 TPC, you could just do that and you'll get it. If you go on their website and see all the hundreds, there's about 600 or 700 cities that are having events, and some cities are having multiple events. Like I think LA has about 20 events going on all during the day. Some of them were simultaneous. It started last night at midnight because I guess, in Australia it was whatever. Anyway, so it's been this whole day. Well, not only is it 100,000 Poets for Change Day, it's also Moving Planet Day, which means it's not only the poets that are on the move for change, it's many people who believe in the kinds of things that we feel should be happening on the planet. So Bill McKibben, who was the organizer of 350.org, do you remember that last year when we had 350? Well, our city at Peace Group participated in 350 as one of the Santa Barbara, it was the Santa Barbara site for 350.org. And Dorothy, who is here videotaping, did a little film about 350.org and went around to the different places that people were doing things in Santa Barbara. So I guess what that says is that Santa Barbara likes to keep up with the world. So we just feel like whatever's going on in the world, we need to be a part of. And so that's why we're having 100,000 Poets for Change today. And I'm so glad first to welcome all the poets in Santa Barbara that are here. Some are reading, some are come to listen, some have just come from reading earlier at the Mission Poetry Series. So this is really a great day for poetry in our community and really everywhere. And I think that, it's always been said, I forget, someone is going to know what poet said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Who said that? Hey. Who? Shelley. Thank you, Professor. So indeed we are, and we think we are, and that's why we're always writing what we think and what we feel ought to be, the way it ought to be, and we always write the way it was. So, we take this special sort of crown that's shaped like a halo, and wear it around proudly, and we feel that this is what we do. One time I actually was on David Starkey's Creative Community Show being interviewed, and he said to me, and I want to thank you, David, because this is probably one of the sparks. I was looking at that interview again for my taking on, sort of pulling together this event and inviting the poets to come and join me to do it. He said, well, Sojouner, you're a poet of conscience. And, I don't think anyone had ever used that exact phrase from me before, and I felt very honored by it. But with that kind of label, I think comes great responsibility. So then when you feel like you're a poet of conscience or social conscience, then you feel like you have to do what is right, or something that you think ought to be done or ought to be spoken or ought to be written, So I am inspired by being able to be a part of the poets who feel like what they do can make a difference in the community and in the world. So I want to welcome everybody here today, and it's bigger than this event. It's bigger than Santa Barbara. It's bigger than us, and so I hope that you will try and, if you haven't plugged in already, try and plug into everything that's been happening with this. And one of the things you'll notice in the program, I put just a little bit about the official organization and the fact that all that we say and do is going to be documented. In Stanford, Stanford University has designated 100,000 Poets for Change events as sort of a national treasure, and so they're going to archive it forever. And I've got my computer set up to do live streaming, but I haven't got the live streaming working yet. But if I get it working while we're here, then it may be that people all over the world can, on their computer, visit what we're doing here, as well as maybe they're visiting and looking to see what's happening in Budapest, and maybe they can see what we're doing. But at any rate, we have two great videographers here, Dorothy Littlejohn and Larry Nimmer. And so I know that we're going to have a record of this day, and hopefully all of you, everybody who has a smartphone, an iPhone, or anything that takes a picture, click away, click away, click away. Okay, so having said that, and just in case I didn't tell you, my name is Sojourner Kincaid Rolle, and I'm going to be one of your co-hosts today, and our second co-host is Marcia Meyer. Come on over, Marcia. Let's welcome Marcia. Give her a little. I especially want to thank Marcia because I called her last night to find out if she would come and help me do this, and she said yes immediately. And so I'm just happy to do it. And some of you may know that Marcia's a successful writer, has a new book that came out this year. She's does many workshops on writing and ways to write and things to do and blogging. You got your blogging workshop coming up. She's also a graduate student, so she's she's doing a lot of things in our community and in her life, but she's also a good co-host for events like this. So thank you. Marcia, you want to have a few words?
I would love to thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you, Sojouner, for inviting me to help out. I'm delighted to be here, and I know we're going to have a great event tonight.
So some of you probably know, and maybe I hope that you saw when you came in, that our event is for City at Peace, which is a teen theater group. It's been involved in Santa Barbara for the last 17 years, and I'm proud to have been associated with City at Peace. So today I don't have on my City at Peace shirt, but I have on my invisible hat. And I want to invite Karina Jew and Joe Sachs over to tell us a little bit more about City at Peace.
Hi, I'm Karina.
I'm Joseph Sachs.
And just to come out and talk to you a little bit about City at Peace, and thank you for coming and, down a little. Okay, is that better? Yeah. Okay. City at Peace actually was started, I think it's actually 17 years now. We're on our 17th season by Nancy Davis, and Sojouner was there also from the very beginning. She's our old woman. Well, that wasn't the term I was going to use, but she's like the keeper of the record, the history of City at Peace, and it's a really important part of our program. Our artistic director is Joseph Velasco. He couldn't be here today because he had some family emergencies to take care of. But I was kind of thinking, well, what would Joseph say about what City at Peace is, as opposed to what I would say? And so I think, well, Joseph, channeling his perspective, he would say that, we're storytellers. We're about telling the truth. Now, me as the managing director, I have more of the elevator speech based on the mission statement when I'm going to try and talk to a funder. And so I say, well, we're teaching conflict resolution through the performing arts. So that always seems probably really blurry and fuzzy to most people. But what actually happens in City at Peace is that each year about this time, we actually start in about 2 weeks. We put teens, 13 through 19, from schools throughout the community through a school year-long process where they're they're learning skills in listening, conflict resolution skills, and they're doing this through theater games and exercises that are led by adult facilitators like Sojouner and other artists throughout the community. And what it culminates in is that at the midpoint of the year, they go on a retreat, a playwriting retreat, and they write their own stories and they put them together into an original theater production, which they put on across the way at Center Stage Theater every May. And so that's pretty much what we do, but probably even more importantly is the experience that our teens have. One last thing I did want to say, though, about that's what we do, but what happens in City at Peace, as Joseph says, we tell the truth, and I'm always amazed that our teens are so honest about their lives and what teens are experiencing in our community, and they're always really on the forefront of, because it comes from their lives, of what the rest of us in the community and the media will only come to sort of understand or realize are serious issues maybe a year or two down the line. Like a couple of years ago, our teens really focused on the impact of prescription drugs and their use and abuse among teens. And right now, News Hawk has this whole series about prescription drug abuse, and our teens were talking about that 2 years ago. So Anyway, I would like to leave the mic to Joseph so he can talk a little bit about his experience as a member of City of Peace, and also last year he joined us as an alumni coming on as an adult facilitator, and which we always like to see them come back around and help the community. So.
Well, I just can't tell you how much City of Peace really benefited me. It's just, I was part of City of Peace from October 2008 to May 2009. And before I came into contact with City of Peace, I was going through a process of not really getting along with people my own age, because I act so differently. I'm not afraid to act as myself. So during junior high, that kind of led me to be somewhat ostracized. And I somewhat suffered like being gossiped about and being led on by girls I liked, and I realized that they just used me for gossip material. And so that drove such a wedge within me that I didn't really want to hang around people my own age, because I was afraid that they would treat me the same way. And so in City of Peace, about a month into the program, I was thinking about no longer attending. And subconsciously, it was because I was afraid that these kids would treat me the same way. But I decided to stick with it. At the very end of the year, telling my story and hearing of the other kids' stories, I was able to just grow and to delve into that, just explore that hurt that I carried with me all those years. And it really made a positive change in my life. It just still resonates with me to this day. So I decided to come back last year as a volunteer, as Karina noted, and just to listen to other kids was really profound. And I'm really honored to be doing the same thing this year.
Well, thank you. As you see, I have a basket. Let me just say, we keep saying this is a benefit for City of Peace. So there wasn't an admission charge for today, but we do need to raise money. So there's going to be many opportunities for you to contribute, both now, and Karina also has envelopes for later if you want to send back a donation. But we do need donations, and so there's a basket here, which I possibly could do the way they do in church and send it around. Or I think there's a couple of crystal vases that you could put a donation in. So there's opportunities throughout the evening from now that we're here for you to make some sort of contribution to both the expenses we have for putting on the event tonight, and any proceeds that we have after our expenses are taken care of will then go to benefit the program at City of Peace. Yes, Katie. And there are t-shirts for sale. And while we're doing that, I might also, other people will tell you, Perry, I think, is going to tell you that she has some books for sale. There are different things that are around that you can interact with the people who are at the table about them. But definitely City of Peace has t-shirts for sale. And I don't know, how many do you have? You have enough for everyone in here to buy one?
Possibly.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say they might be in limited supply, so you better get your t-shirt early. Okay, so what I want to do now is turn the program over to Marcia. And we will continue with, we will begin our poetry reading.
Okay, so a couple of really quick reminders. If you have a cell phone, would you please turn it off or put it on vibrate or silence for the rest of the evening? And there's still a sign-up sheet for people who want to do open mic this evening. It's on the front counter over there. So we're going to start out with our open mic. And tonight's first open mic reader, and you have 2 minutes to read your poem, is Evan Sitkoff.
Raise it to my new height level. Hello, my name is Evan Sitkoff. I'm 22 years old, and it's my first time reciting a poem as such, but hope you enjoy it, at least makes you think. It's called Let It Move How It Wants to Move. Everybody is moving too fast. Halogen beams frying innocent eyeballs on 4-lane superhighways that used to be called roads. Now all day is rush hour, and the clamor of horns ring in a maddening disgust, a punchy reminder of the angst and frustration of American restlessness. Drivers log-jammed with faces of scorn, while the evolution of this new century species is aptly displayed, posture hunched forward, shoulders rolled inward, necks strung out from sitting stationary for 1/3 of life, staring at screens, typing until wrists transmute into carpal tunnel and then turn to limp butter which most would spread on toast without a masturbatory afterthought to the origins of the salty, whitey, fatty substance. Even when we are not hungry, we stuff our orotund mouths, somehow taking the whole piece in with just one bite, but we're not doing it right, without chewing or allowing taste buds to savor and enjoy a full circle return to the fishy pre-seminal bacteria swallowers we once were. Find food, put food in mouth, swallow. And what better time to exercise this wry mastication ritual than when sitting behind the wheel, multitasking at its finest. Back to rush hour and the lemming follow. Faces are glum and languid, but from nervous tics and long exhales you can tell that inside the driver's guts sit heavy rocks of indigence, and disconnected to the perturbed mind, the biological body knows it is not confronted with a minutia of Homo habilis-style danger, and so asses relax passively, enjoying comfy leather seats designed to fit the contours of the lumbar vertebrae. Processed, refreshed air cools 10 toes at a time, crisp, alleviating air that keeps everybody just calm enough to not bode the mind's most turbulent urges. Open door, jump out, scream out loud, run around hysterical, get naked, create chaos. In the end, I imagine a bevy of idealistic youths pedaling in unison, sporting fedoras strapped with cavalier feathers, armed with bags of ammunition, push pins, properly trained and hyper-aware, excited to puncture each gridlock 7-seater behemoth with just a push-pin tap and pop. Drivers and passengers float skyward. It's a rapture we've been waiting for. The inflated, corpulent automobiles designed to fit the shape of the people who drive them disappear into the ether, and for a few seconds nature basks in the light of nothingness. She can now be reacquainted with one of her parts. An endangered, empty space returned, but these days recidivism rates are high, and that space will no doubt be refilled all too soon with a similar make and model. Everybody is moving just too fast. Now we return to our taillight red, headlight white, horn blasting tableau, brooding the difference between empathy and solidarity. For a second we breathe, and time stops, and the red brake lights ahead of us serve as a visual welcome back, reminding us that we are here, sitting on 2-tone leather seats in a climate-controlled, Bluetooth accessorized motor vehicle that can take us anywhere we damn well please, with the proud 22 MPG that we boast about to our familiars to ensure that our pride and sense of contribution stays intact. But we must come to terms with what's here and now, that we have the freedom to travel across vast distances at futuristic speeds, just not today, because today is a traffic day. So let's just let it be what it wants to be. Let's just let it move how it wants to move. Slow.
Wow, Evan, thank you. That was amazing. Our next reader is Larry Nimmer.
I have a couple of short poems for open mic. This first one's called For Allison. Because I love you and it's your wedding, I'll back up the tape and record over it, the shot where you're self-conscious. But that's what I like about you. You're conscious of ourselves, and I salute you for it. Mazel tov, my cancer girl muse. Thank you. And one other. I prefer heartache to a bad boo-boo. Tears mean I'm alive. Blood means I'm doomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, now I'm going to invite Lane Anderson to come up and offer some remarks for us before we have our first poetry group.
Hello, everybody. I'm here, I guess, because of an email I sent. I don't think it was poetry, but I might not know if it was, because I write a lot. And I have a blog. My blog at The Independent is called Slow Lane, so I appreciated the first poem especially. I think the reason that I was asked to make remarks is because I wrote a good deal recently about change. And before I start that, my son, Nicholas, was involved in the City at Peace 14 years ago. He was referred by the courts for writing anti-racist graffiti on a lamppost. And he may be familiar to Sojouner, I don't know. His name is Nicholas Anderson. Change, as far as I know, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the Vietnam War, and I'm also a veteran of hundreds, maybe thousands of protests. Gary saw me at many of them. And I have come to the conclusion that change is, as the first poem was about, change is about our lifestyle, change is about us, change is our habits, our behavior, our politicians, and all the trouble we see them involved in are manifestations of our own behavior, our own conduct. And it might not be you, I'm talking about us as 300 million Americans that are perpetually involved in multiple wars for resources, so that we can be comfortable, so we can drive fast, so we can multitask, so we can sit in comfort, in air conditioning, go shopping a lot, and that's just my perception, is that we're not going to find peace, we're not going to find change because we convince the government to do anything. We're going to find change because we change within and begin to conduct our lives differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. Well, our first poet to read tonight is Paul Portuguese, and I didn't see Paul earlier. Paul, did you come in yet? Are you here? No. He's not here. Okay, so we're going to hold off on Paul. So our first poet tonight then will be our own Perry Longo. Many of you know Perry has been a long-time poet and was our second poet laureate of the city of Santa Barbara. Second. See, I was right in the first place. She's a wonderful poet, and so we would like to welcome her up here tonight.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you, Sojouner, for inviting me. Sojourner, when she told me about this, she said, I would like it if you would, address your comments to the subject of peace. Peace is something this world has been wanting for a long time, and there's probably no peace anywhere really except in our hearts and in our personal lives, but I suppose that's where it starts. I'm poetry chair of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, which is headquartered here in Santa Barbara. It's an international organization. It was founded by David Krieger and Frank Kelly in 1982. And I'm going to read you their mission statement, which is a world at peace, free of the threat of war, and free of weapons of mass destruction. The Foundation's mission is to advance initiatives to eliminate the threat of nuclear weapons to all life, to foster the global rule of law, and to build an enduring legacy of peace through education and advocacy. And this is a very huge job. And this, I think, has a lot to do with this particular global event of Poets for Change. The other thing about the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation is that they sponsor an international poetry contest every year. And there are flyers on the back table about that. It says 2011, but you can change it to 2012. because they just finished judging the 2011 contest. So the deadline is always July 1st. So feel free to pick up one of those flyers, and there's also some flyers about the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, whose job is huge and has been going on for a long time by people of all ages, and we can never do enough to keep working for that. I thought I would read a poem tonight by Pablo Neruda. When it comes to the idea of peace, I thought, you know, it's always good to read other people's poems, I think, for poetry readings. Keeping Quiet, and this is an excerpt from it. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still for once on the face of the earth. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems to be dead in winter and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. Pablo Neruda. Thank you, Pablo. And I heard he would finish every poetry reading he ever did with that poem, and then he would read it, and he would slip off the stage reading the last stanza, you keep quiet, and I will till he was disappeared. I just thought that's wonderful. I'm going to read another poem from the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation Poetry for Peace. There's 5 books back there from the first volume, which was 1995 to 2002, the winning poems. And I told Sojouner that I talked to David today, and if you would like to give a donation of $10 for those books, and then they would go to the City of Peace. And there's 5 books back there. And Sojouner, if anybody wants any more, you can let me know in the future, and we can do that. And there's also a book back there by David Krieger, who's the president of the foundation, titled This Is Not a Good Day for War. And that is also, if you want to give a donation of $10 for that. So I'm going to read one of the poems in the new anthology, which we just finished editing, and it will be out probably in 2 or 3 months, called Never Enough Flowers. And the title of this is Love's Lullaby by Hannah Hur. And I chose this poem because she's 16 years old, and the contest has a division for adults, for youth 13 to 18, and then children 0 to 12. And one time we actually had a 7-year-old win an international contest. So this is Love's Lullaby by Hannah Hur. A mother cradles her child against her thin breast and gazes sadly into deep, shining eyes, a mirror of her own. The infant cries, wanting milk, but there's none to give. The woman has not eaten in days, and her breasts are dry as the bone-cracked land that surrounds them. She whispers into his ear a single word, peace. Suddenly the stars rearrange, painting perfect patterns in the inky sky. All around the world, cities fall silent, apologizing for their constant pandemonium. Mothers look at the sky, listen to the stars, and whisper, Rede, Hetep, Raha, Erini, Haiwa, Suksang, Rongo, Amani, Santipap, Ukuthula. The word flows from mother to child, cracked lips to soft ears. The newborns remember without understanding. Years later, as the world writhes in war, the word ricochets in the grown children's minds, and they drop their weapons, silent, thoughtful. They turn their heads to the sky, and again the stars sing. Thank you, Hannah. And I'm going to end with one poem of mine. In 2005, I received an invitation from the University of Kuwait, or actually it was in 2003, to come and speak on poetry for peace. I had written an article that was on the internet, and I told the woman who invited me, who was a professor of literature at the University of Kuwait, that I had a really busy schedule and I couldn't come that year. I didn't think it'd be, we just gone to war in Iraq. So she wrote back, and we became sort of email pals. And then she said, I don't know, in 2004, end of 2004, she said, you can come in February or November. So I thought, well, why not? And so I went to Kuwait and spoke about poetry and peace at the University of Kuwait and gave some workshops and wrote some poems. And this is one of the poems I wrote as a result of that experience. It was my way of spreading peace and going someplace that I was afraid to go, but I found that when I got there, they're just like us. They want the same things we do, and this poem is sort of like that. It begins with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh: "Humans are not our enemies." Out of the silence of writing, she flies to the front of the lecture hall like a raven, black swirled around her head, draped over body, a veil fastened, mouth, ear to ear. Her eyes mirror and shadow, beauty and anguish at once. In her hand, a small scrap of paper like a sail, her words a wind that propels her. She wants to read her poem released when I spoke of how poetry can be a road to peace, how Rumi wrote to greet every feeling as guest to the house of the heart. The veil that covers her mouth puffs in and out with each breath, a tent opening in the desert between us. As she speaks about being hidden, not heard, how she aches with loss, relatives felled for war's intolerable gain. When I ask what can I do, she tears the veil from her mouth. Say more. I have such thirst. Sand becomes water. We drink and drink.
Thank you, Perry. That was beautiful. Our next poet is Katie Ingram. And Katie is an activist poet, an active poet, activist poet too, a novelist, a short story writer. She was born in Mexico and she lives in Ojai. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Marcia.
You can pull it down. Thank you. It's video and audio.
I've been obsessed with the idea that there are turning points in history, and all of us know some that were very important recently and for centuries past. I fear and believe in turning points. Some have led to catastrophes of war, and some to peace and change. Today will be yesterday by tomorrow, but it will still have been a turning point. We can all look back in our lives and see a missed opportunity, or a chance gone wrong, or the exact moment when we helped an individual or someone saved lives and someone did something to change the world. Clashes, bigotry, and greed can blind us to defining moments. You've probably all heard of the Reverend or the Dr. William Sloane Coffin. He was an activist against segregation, against war, against a lot of bad things. And he put his money where his mouth was. He rode freedom trains, and he didn't just talk. He said, despair is not an option. And he acted in the moment against prejudice and against conflict. And in tune with this event, he believed in change. I'm going to read a poem inspired by a visit to Barcelona. And some of you may know that Spain has had its troubles. And this alludes to it a little bit, and also to the hope of change. Freedom. We are in Barcelona. The air is pinholed with separatism, defense of the Catalan language, food, and culture. In other lands, there are sparks, ignitions, explosions. Here, there are no riots, no bombs, no splashed graffiti dripping blood for freedom, for the Basque countries, for the ghosts of Franco's making, or for the poet Federico del Sagrado Corazón de Jesús García Lorca. They were told to cut him into little pieces, some say. Not a thread of him was found in the scarce woods of pines and olives in Andalusia. He was scattered like chunks of a banned Greek god, lest he incorporate and make truth and beauty forever. Andalusia is another Spain, at the other end of time. Andalusia is black and red with flamenco, blood, and bulls. It is time-carved gypsy caves and gypsy ways. It is the inspiration and the desperation of difference. But we are in Barcelona, and there are no riots. We deliver ourselves to old Gaudí, to his ideas centuries ahead of himself, to the Basilica of the Holy Family. Gaudí's rebellion was in every shattered dish he set into giant plaster toads and balustrades. His revolution was to feed the luscious passion of his faith. Dozens of us stand in the nave, heads hanging back, drunk with surrender to the updraft of heaven. Our arms held out in some kind of prayer, our digital eyes and our incoherent flashes called to the eye of God. There are no riots. At Gaudí's Parc Güell, we walk under the staggered arches, leaning perfectly away from center. Gaudí knew that center is not where we think it is. He looked at the world upside down in a mirror and built from his own truth. Down in the park's arena, two men seemed to dance, to fill a cloth with sand and toss it to their team up in the stands, then disappear. A game, maybe, or magic. In black and yellow, stiff as dead bees, two policemen stroll in looking for someone to arrest. They leave. Again, two heads, curly black like the soft forehead of a bull, duck down to the sand, and team-handed spread out their gray cloth. Buyers gather, choose, and pay. At a signal, the men gather up a gray ball, then no one sends it to no one high up above. The police walk in, walk out, there's no one to catch. We descend, savoring Gaudí, the view, the palace garden that was to be for everyone, not just the few. We are close to the arena now. Two men slide onto the sand and silently sell bracelets, necklaces, mementos. This time we see the sign. 4 sweeps and the ball is gone. Our eyes go high to follow it and miss the part of the vanishing. When the police come in, it's too late. Someone behind us spits out the word, gypsies. Gypsies. ancient nation, you are not allowed. They don't trust your mahogany faces, your broad smiles, your direct looks, your women wearing armloads of bracelets. Gypsies, they find you delicious as a draw for tourists, but they persecute you, lest you steal their thin color, their pale songs, their obedient dances. Dear Federico del Sagrado Corazón de Jesús, some things never change. Freedom has no face. It has masks painted white against black, rich against poor. Gypsy merchants go to jail. Legal, loyal guards and docents have long curtains in cool rooms with tall ceilings. On Mondays, they take their money to the bank. But we are here in Barcelona, and there are no riots. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Did Paul come in by any chance while we were? Okay. Well, then I am going to invite David Starkey, who is our third poet laureate for the city, and his wife Sandy to come up, and they're going to do a special musical presentation for us tonight.
Well, I'll introduce us and then got the Bob Dylan harmonica thing here. Just like a race. We want to sing an old song from the 1960s. It's called Prison Trilogy, sometimes called Billy Rose by Joe Baez. My wife Sandy is going to be singing. I want to say that she has a beautiful but very soft voice, and I grew up learning how to play guitar in the late 1970s playing the Sex Pistols in the class, so I tend to play a little bit too loud. So if I start playing too loud, you guys can give me a glare, and if she's singing too softly, maybe you can kind of just encourage her to sing a little bit louder. Okay? So, yeah, we want to sing this song for Troy Davis.
Turn on. Yeah.
Busted on a drunken charge, driving someone else's car. Local midnight sheriff's claim to fame. In an Arizona jail, there's some who tell the tale. Billy fought the sergeant for some milk that he demanded, knowing he'd made the laws, knowing he would pay the cost. They saw he was severely reprimanded. In the blackest cell on a block, he hanged himself at dawn, with a note stuck to the bunkhead. Don't mess with me, just take me home. Come and help us lay young Billy down. Bruno was a Mexican, the law calls an alien, coming across the border with a baby some money and things to start a life. Hadn't been too very long when it seemed like everything went wrong. Didn't even have the time to find themselves a home. This foreigner, a brown-skinned man, thrown inside a Texas jail, left the wife and baby quite alone. Ease the pain inside him with a needle in his arm. Don't just crucify him, and he died to no one's great alarm. Come and help us lay poor Luna down, and we'll raise the prisons to the ground. Kilowat was an aging con of 65 who stood a chance to stay alive and leave the joint and walk the streets again. As the time he was to leave drew near, he suffered all the joy and fear of leaving 35 years in the pen. And on the day of his release, he was approached by the police, took him to the ward and walking slowly at his side. The warden said, "You won't remain here," but it seems a state retainer claims another 10 years of your life. Step down in Texas sunlight, and the cops all stood around. Oh, Kilowatt ran 50 yards, then threw himself down on the ground. They might as well just have laid that old man down. But we're gonna raise the prisons to the ground. Help us raise the prisons to the ground.
Thank you, David and Sandy. That was lovely. And so, well, I've lost my mind for the first time tonight. Won't be the second time, or the third probably. And I forgot to introduce our one of our poets from the first group, and his name is Steve Beisner. So my apologies, Steve. I'm going to have you come up. Steve is. I know he's a wonderful poet because he's in my poetry group, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. Steve was drafted in 1969 at the age of 23 after a year of grad school. Too old and too educated to become an effective infantryman like the rest of his basic training company, he instead tended the Army's antique computers by day and by night worked ammo dump guard duty with younger kids carrying horrific stories of Vietnam. They taught him that in war, even a victor is just a different kind of victim. Steve, please come up.
So our den mother, Sojouner, asked me if I would read something about war. It's not one of my favorite poetry topics, but I did find a couple of poems. I'm going to read two very short ones. The first one is called Soldier of Small Things. In my Kevlar jacket, ammo belt, rifle, I hunt giants, monstrous dictators, heartless terrorists, doomsday weapons. I defend big ideas, freedom, democracy, justice. But I find nothing so large. Only a small brown girl in a blue dress like the sky, dark eyes wet with fear and questions. When is Papa coming home? Where is my brother? Why is Mama crying? I have no answers for such small questions. And the second one, I'm happy to say is a little bit out of date as of, I believe it was Monday of this week. It's called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Don't ask, don't tell, they told him. The lieutenant until this afternoon waits under desert sun for a bus to carry him away, dressed as he was this morning in fatigues and fitness and fortitude. Don't ask, don't tell, they warned. Don't look, don't see, don't think, don't know, don't care, don't even wish. Don't need you, can't use you, they said. With brass pulled from his lapels and chevrons ripped from his sleeves, threads dangle, marking his disgrace. He slaps his pocket for the papers. Don't ask, don't tell, they wrote in his folder. Don't hope, don't care, don't sing, don't love, don't ache, don't be. He rides the bus to the end of the line, gets off and stands in the dusty heat, wonders why they hate him so, why he followed them so far. Don't ask, don't tell, they sneered and turned away. Don't work, don't sacrifice, don't stand up, don't stand out, don't do, don't not do, just don't. At night, he walks into the desert, looks into a billion faces shining overhead, and asks and tells. Again and again, he asks, he tells. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. There are refreshments to munch on, and there are tables to explore, and we're going to set up a video. And I still have spots available for people who would like to do open mic. So I'll leave this form right here if you'd like to sign up, and we'll take a 5-minute break.
Okay. Well, glad to see so many of us are still here. I'm really pleased at how everything's turning out. Our readers have been great. That was kind of like the first half of our program, and so we have our, just as wonderful second half. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hear from Gail Goldberg. Where is Gail? She took off her helmet, and now I can't find her. Gail, calling Gail. Gail still here? I know she's here. She wouldn't have left. And she has on a beautiful salmon-colored jacket. Oh, it's not even salmon, it's yellow. And she's just walking in leisurely as if I'm not calling her name. I like for her to be ready. All right, this is my friend Gail. And Gail is going to come up and she's going to share many wonderful things. How about that? With you. But I want to say that Gail and I go way back. We go back. We were involved with the Fund for Santa Barbara how many years ago together? 21. Oh, she knows. 21 years ago now. I was the younger, as you can tell. I'm just kidding. But I'm so glad to have Gail here with us today, and she's brought something wonderful to share. And she told me what she was going to do when we first talked about her being a part of this evening. And when she came in the door, she told me something different. So I do not dare tell you what she's about to do. I just want to introduce Gail Goldberg.
Sojourner mentioned we first met when she was on the grant-making committee.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Walk and talk. Okay, so Sojourner and I met. Sojourner and I met 21 years ago. She was on the grant-making committee of the Fund for Santa Barbara, and I was a board member. And I continue to be involved with progressive social change, which is what the fund is all about. And we just completed our 18th big event called Bread and Roses that I co-created 18 years ago. And it was a very big success. We get a lot of money that we can give away to the community. And City of Peace has been a recipient in the past. And many things that would not get funded by the United Way get funded by the Fund for Santa Barbara. So we're very proud of that. I'm going to talk about bamboo. I don't know if you know much about bamboo, but it came into my life in 1995 when I traveled to Bali to attend the 4th World Congress on Bamboo. I came back from that experience and I read and learned a lot about bamboo. I'm an architect, so I wanted to learn how to build with bamboo. And I read the Bamboo Bible, known as the Book of Bamboo, by David Farrelly. And he wrote many things, and I want to share a poem that is very significant in my bamboo journey. I never saw so fine a chair as one that mostly wasn't there, fashioned of the vacant air and elegantly bent bamboo. If we did everything we do in a style so spare and sightly, building could keep pace with birth, our lives, less filtered with our mess, would sit more lightly on a wilder earth and trash it less. I wrote a book called Bamboo Style, and from that I would like to read you part of the dedication. It's to the memory of my father, Meyer Goldberg, who by his example showed me the wisdom in tzedakah, which is giving from the heart, tikkun olam, which is repairing the world, being an active participant in community, and teaching the next generation. And my frontispiece from the book. Another tropical rainstorm changes from torrents to drizzle. The heavy dark gray clouds dissolve as an azure blue sky becomes the backdrop for the sage green, tapering giant grass stalks of the bamboo forest. Heavy winds have become gentle zephyrs. Shades of jade color the bamboo culms or stalks and their arching branches, ending in clusters of lancet-like leaves. They speak in whispering voices, a moan, a creak, an exhalation. A bamboo grove is a sacred place where one goes to listen, where one goes to observe the new shoots rapidly elongating as they stretch upward. A bamboo grove is where one goes to touch the smooth vertical fibers, regularly divided and reinforced by horizontal interruptions. Bamboo is many things to many people. It embodies the interconnectedness of all life on this planet.
to grow and cultivate a plant that nourishes the soul, the soil, and the grower, to harvest the plant, treat it against unwanted beetles, and prepare the stock of cut culms for transport, to distribute the readily renewable resource to the right places, to be utilized in more than 1,000 ways by skillful designers, craftspeople, manufacturers, and their teams of transformers, to be exposed to and appreciate the value of bamboo, to have bamboo in your possession, living or crafted. Engage actively in this interlife cycle, and you become a part of the consciousness to sustain and preserve the Earth's global resources. Another bamboo nut, Beverly Ann Messenger, put together a book called To Bamboo, an Homage, which is an anthology of poems written throughout the ages in honor of bamboo. Beverly Ann Messenger, her first letters of her 3 names are the beginning of bamboo, just coincidentally, calls herself a treasure hunter and gatherer. And she asked me if I wouldn't contribute to her book, and I once again said yes. And I'm going to read you 3 haikus. Bamboo ways, canes flex in the wind, harvest new growth, cure and treat, food, shelter, clothing. Second one, bamboo sighs, spring green shoots push up, hollow stalks hit hauntingly, breathe deeply, bamboo. And the last one, building with bamboo, bundled iron grass, bamboo poles with knuckled nodes, earthquakes, stalks still stand.
Up here, just because we're doing the, we've got 2 open readers here, but I want to put the readers just a little bit later and look at the program here, because we're all set up. I think we're ready to go. Susan, are we? Yeah. So our next person is Susan Schiavelli, who's my good friend and writing group partner. And I'll tell you how she might tell you. She might not tell you this part. But again, there was many aspirations for me doing deciding to do this event today, and we were actually at a group, and Susan had written a poem that was based on her travels this summer, and it was a poem that was about events that happened during the Holocaust, and we were all, I think, very touched by the poem, and we felt she should do more with it. And I just started having a vision of how that could be a part of this, because I was already thinking about doing 100,000 Poets for Change. And it's really kind of a historical visit. However, you know, it's the one of the kind of things that we think about, the things that we have lived through in the past are the things that we hope will never be repeated. And this is why it's so important to be in touch with history and to recognize the atrocities that have taken place in the world, that still take place in our own lives this very day as we speak, which is why we continue to work for change. So for this, we want to show, Susan has brought, she's going to show a little video in the beginning, so you're going to need to like situate yourself. You can turn your chair around, stand.
Every summer, a remarkable reunion takes place in these lush mountains in the Czech Republic. A group of friends come together from all over the world. They have one thing in common. They all grew up in the shadow of death in a concentration camp outside of Prague. They grew up quickly. Helga Kincaid couldn't speak about the horror for a full 40 years.
Because actually, whatever you did, you didn't have the right to live. You were sentenced to death. And that is something you can't get over.
Their friendship began here in Theresienstadt, a transit camp. From here, the garrison town before the war, Jews were sent off to the gas chambers of Auschwitz. Nearly 140,000 Jews from all over Central Europe passed through here, including many of Europe's most prominent artists, who left a record of what it was like.
Okay, so there's a little bit of history, and maybe some of you already knew all of that, but when my husband and a group of friends this summer went on a river trip up the Danube, we then traveled from Germany to Prague, and our wonderful guide Lucy said, you must go to Terezin, or it's also known as Theresienstadt. And we thought we knew the whole history of the Holocaust, but we had not heard of this particular place, so we went there actually very naive as to the purpose of it. It was a very layered deception. The Nazis put this particular camp out to the world as a model relocation camp to prove how well they treated the Jews, when really they were using it as a deportation camp to funnel thousands of people to all the other concentration camps like Auschwitz, where they would be put to death. But while they were there, they put on shows. They put all the artists and the musicians and the poets there. And there was also a secret school inside the camp where the adults taught the children. And so there were many, many layers of secrets. And when we went there, we knew nothing. And I always believed that poems find us instead of the other way around. Waiting for our guide at Terezin, her cigarette smoke rises in the air, a starving ghost that vanishes into the branches of a chestnut tree. We wait, wondering how a tree can flourish here. We wait, wondering how the grass can be such ordinary green. The summer air is silent except for the chatter of birds who own this place now, fly freely in and out of open doors and broken windows, nest in the rafters and soil the welcome sign, or bite mocked fry. Swallows swirl above the rooftop of a mass cell, but we have yet to learn the purpose of this building, have not seen the still pristine white porcelain and tile, the showroom that never held a drop of water, never washed a child's hand. For now, the roof is merely a roof, a stage, and we the audience. The birds soar and dive, perform their dance of descendants, auguring not only the future but the past as they pirouette into the shape of a child, costumed in swallowtails, twirling in sunlight, one arm reaching, beseeching, as she stirs this deadened air laden with unanswered prayer. We witness this, not yet knowing that 15,000 children passed through this place, or if we once knew, forgetting that little more than 100 survived. We have yet to learn that 9 poems were found hidden in mattresses and stuffed in chinks of these walls, poetry written in a child's unwashed hand. We have yet to tour the museum to see the glass case filled with toys, a doll, embroidered elephant, lucky horseshoe valentines. We have never heard of Brundabar and do not know that children sang the opera here over 50 times, little birds in a cage, singing their triumphant song in the language of innocence, forgetting hunger as they told of loyal friends, a dog, a cat, a swallow. Heroes who defeat evil in the way of opera and magical thinking. We know none of this as we wait for our official guide, who stamps out her final cigarette, preparing to deliver her dispassionate recitation of facts and numbers, which we won't remember years later. Not exactly. What we will remember is how the swallows danced for us, how they knew the music, and how stone holds memory. We'll hear children singing their final song, voices sweet and rising, rising through the roof, the branches of the chestnut tree, and into the heavens. Thank you.
Well, if you looked at your watches, you may notice that we are sort of not exactly in sync with the time frame, but we're moving forward. But I have to say after that once again, and this is the second time I've heard Susan's poem, it's so very touching to me. But one of the things that makes me think of is the idea that the children were taught by the elders in secret in this camp. And it makes me think of slavery, in which the black children, it was against the law to learn to read and write, and people had to be taught to read and write in secret, and yet there were people who rose up, Frederick Douglass being one very good example, who rose up from slavery, having been taught by their elders in secret. And in the civil rights movement, we had the freedom schools, where the African American and others in the community taught young black children in schools in secret. And it's just a shame that this is the kind of thing that people do not want you to have knowledge, or don't want you to have education. And the idea of being able to receive information, get information, learn and understand, and to be an informed person on the planet is something that other people consider a threat or a danger to their power. So thank you so much for that poem, Susan. And we continue, but I just felt I had to say something there. Thank you. I don't know who's next.
Okay, our next speaker, poet, is Paul Farrakano. And Paul is the founder of the Mission Poetry Series, which had its fall presentation this afternoon, earlier today, and we'll be doing that again in April, and they feature poets at the Mission Retreat Center twice a year. And Paul, do you want to read this bit on humor yourself, or do you want me to read it for you? No, you can read it. Okay, so humor is critical to our existence on this planet. Our ability to laugh, particularly in times of personal and global crisis, speaks volumes about our inner truths and demonstrates compassion for ourselves and for others. In poetry, humor is often viewed from a distance as uncharted territory, difficult to navigate through and perilous to find a way back from. This is the terrain Paul feels most comfortable traveling and exploring. Humor signals change in his life as he moves through it. He says, "It helps me get there." Paul, come on up.
Pull that mic down. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Great. Thank you, Sojourner. Thank you, Marcia. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'd like to start with a very short poem. I think in my 20s and 30s, I wrote a lot of political poems, social satire poems, I guess you can call them. A lot of political stuff that I guess I was one of the first poets, I think, at the time to get into the witness protection program because of it. But it was always humor that got me into trouble and got me out of trouble. This is a poem I wrote called "Holy Cow, It's Moses." Not really. It's just your strong American memory of all things Charlton Heston, commanding a reverent hush in your Hollywood dream. Listen. One nation under God, indivisible, like the Red Sea. There's a little short poem I wrote called "The Atheist in the Hotel Room." He found a Bible in every drawer, several in the closet, 2 in the bathroom and 1 under his pillow. When he saw the crucifix nailed to the ceiling, he just assumed that someone knew he was coming. And I think this next poem sort of signifies a lot of change in my life at the time, and I think it's emblematic of a lot of things we'd like to see change. And it's called "It's Not Enough of Elvis." It's not enough of Elvis. It's just not enough. It's not enough of Elvis whiskey decanters, Elvis toilet paper, Elvis condoms, Elvis impersonators singing Elvis songs to Elvis fans, albums pitched on Elvis TV sets to Elvis Moonies, Elvis Cadillacs that travel Elvis highways, Elvis socks that fill Elvis shoes, Elvis snow skis with matching Elvis parkas, Elvis pillbox stuffed with Elvis drugs. For Christ's sakes, it's just not enough. It's not enough of Elvis handguns, good luck stick pins, disposable douchebags, golf ball garage door openers, hideaway beds, and even poems like this that make you tired. It's not enough of Elvis. It's just not enough. We dig up the grave and sell little envelopes of Elvis plots. We pulverize the casket and market little vials of Elvis coffins. We auction off the corpse and sell every last bone to the highest bidder. There's an Elvis foot. There's an Elvis foot without the Elvis toes. An Elvis collarbone, an Elvis spine, a jawbone, ribcage, finger. An Elvis thumb with part of an Elvis thumbnail. And of course there's an Elvis pelvis, fetching the highest price in modern history for a single work of art. And still, it's not enough of Elvis. It's just not enough. We don't have enough. We can't get enough. And we won't rest until we've had enough. The birth of Okie surrealism. I sit in a plastic patio chair next to a doughboy pool, drinking and discussing the relationship of poetry to fistfights, mayhem, and the antisocial humor of Moe, Larry, and Curly, three of the most underrated mob influences of any postmodern literary crime wave. It's July 1976. The bicentennial heat is scorching my brain. Thoughts are beginning to sizzle like the gristle on my friend's barbecue pit. Opinions are being set off like firecrackers, while the cold beer and warm tequila try to assure me that I really do summer in the Hamptons. I explain how seemingly idiotic antics, random and without reason, can be used in divine poetic service to complement the absurd nature of reality. The important thing, I emphasize, trying my best not to slur my hypothesis, is knowing how and when to elevate the very lowest to the absolute highest. My friend, a big, quiet man, listens intently as if he hears a coyote calling him back to Oklahoma. He drains his long neck bottle of genuine draft and savors the last vanishing drop of Miller time. By now, my eyes are so heavy, I try to pretend I always look like this. Hell, he finally says, with some conviction, I can't stop 3 lunatics from running through my yard and scaring my chickens to death. That's their job. I can barely make him out now as he shifts and changes shape. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm convinced he's a genius. And this last poem I'd like to dedicate to Barry Spax. Barry, you here? His spirit. It's called Ties. The bartender is talking about ties and how the color of a tie can be directly linked to a man's sexual attitude. He read it in the behavior section of Time magazine, and naturally he has everyone's ear on this one. To begin with, he explains, a blue tie means you're romantic, a red tie means you're passionate, and a green tie means you're macho. Nobody in the place has ever heard of this color code. How about a black tie? Someone asks. Disciplined, he says. And a white tie? Someone else asks. Selfish, he says. Now we're really getting into it. Well, what about a striped one? Mechanical, he says. Checkered? godlike. Spotted, reckless. Bow, abusive. String, extremely depraved. This doesn't say much, I say, for those of us who never wear a tie. Unfortunately, all of us are suddenly aware now that I'm the only one in the place who is actually wearing a tie. And it's an ascot. Somebody finally breaks the silence. What about shoes? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Our next poet is Angelica Joaquim. Angelica, are you here? Would you come up and just give us a sentence or two of introduction for you?
Hi, everyone. My name's Angelica Joachim, and I think by way of introduction, what should I say? I've been writing poems for a few years. Mostly, I think what I want to say is hello. I'm glad to see you all. I'm very aware that right now, all over the world, people are standing up. They're standing up for justice. They're standing up for the land. And they're standing up for their own hearts and spirits. And I am really grateful to Sojouner for putting this together so I could stand here with everyone in the world and participate in my own small way. And I guess I could say that the poem that I'm going to read is about peace. Instructions for using a clothesline. Grow up on the prairie, where there is an abundance of wind and sun. Watch your mother hang bed sheets out in the dead of winter. Later, help her bring them in, frozen in sheets like billboards. Smell them. Notice how the whole house smells alive like fresh fallen snow. When you move away from home and have to use a dryer, notice how the clothes long for air and sky. After your children are born, take them out with you to hang the clothes. Kick the basket to keep it in reach. Have them hand you clothespins, socks. Notice the space in your mind. Later, when it's time to look for a small house in town, make sure there's a yard, walls, and a clothesline. Hang the clothes out in your small prairie. Notice how the moment grows vast. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica, and I'm sorry I mispronounced your name both ways. Our next poet is Ron Alexander, and Ron abandoned a career in psychology when he was diagnosed with AIDS in 1995. At age 46, his only life goals became to see 50 and the new millennium. Health maintenance became his occupation, and today we are very happy to have him with us. Come on up, Ron.
I've become really aware of limited access to health care with my journey. I've been very fortunate, but a lot of people have not been. And I've written a lot about my experience of having AIDS. This is a little different, but the issue is access to health care. It's called Lucky. You didn't know me personally, but you heard I died. I was your cousin's girlfriend's uncle. I was that big actor your dad remembers from that movie he saw with your real mother before you were born. I was the bachelor across the street and the woman who bagged your mom's groceries. You heard the whispers. It was that queer disease, the one junkies get too, the one you get from toilets or eating foods made by someone who has it. You heard I couldn't breathe when I got pus and blood in my lungs, when the sores on my skin got into my body. I couldn't say anything about it then. Now I got plenty to say. Some got it, some didn't. And if you live at one place, you were lucky. And if you lived someplace else, you weren't. Those of us who got it mostly didn't have nothing. If you did, you lived a bit longer. If you didn't, you found out late and died quick, like my baby. Lots of us did. More than I can count. Whether we could get help or not, because there was no way to stop it. And then there was. They found pills in some old closet. If you lived one place, you got the pills. Lived another, and you got aspirin, and maybe didn't have clean water to take it with. Some still don't. Most of them alive now get treatments, but not everything they need to live. If you live one place, you're lucky. If you live someplace else, you're not. Thank you.
I was going to sneak over to see my two friends, Kathleen and Andre, and ask them to forgive us because we're running so sort of short on time. We'd like to forego the next open mics, and because we have to get to the rest of our program, and so I really apologize. After we invited you to bring your poems up, we want to move forward a little bit. Our next speaker is Iawanja Brown Lawson, and as she's coming up, I want to tell you that Iawanja is my running buddy. You probably see the two of us riding around town every day, all day, just looking like two women out on a lark. But I would like to tell you this is one of the hardest working women in Santa Barbara. She's on many, involved with many activities and organizations that no one would know the work that she does. And so I would like to give her an opportunity to speak about one of her change causes because she's continually working for change. Iawanja.
Hello. When I was first asked to speak, I wasn't sure what I would speak about, but then I thought I should speak about one of the community issues in terms of the theme change. For the past 5 years, I worked very closely with an organization in town, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. But a chord that struck in me was when Mr. Alexander just spoke and said something about access to health care. The organization I work with is dedicated to developing a comprehensive continuum of care and better treatment for those that are dually diagnosed. Some of you probably know what that is, and some of you don't. The dually diagnosed are people that have mental health challenges and substance abuse issues. The organization also strives to overcome the stigma, shame, and fear associated with mental illness, addiction, and suicide, which is a major problem that we've had to deal with in the past. I think the last 4 years, it's been a steady increase. To this end, we established a task force, and some of you may know about it. And we met for 2 years, which included the police department, the sheriff's department, Cottage Hospital, housing, and a number of other healthcare organizations to try to come up with a solution for how we could deal with, well, one of the issues that is an outgrowth of mental health and substance abuse is homelessness. And some of you may know about Common Ground, in which volunteers, over 500 volunteers from our community, you can be proud of that, went out and counted the homeless, and we established a vulnerability scale as to the most vulnerable and how we could best address those issues. So the organization is Families Act, and you can go online. I also have a brochure, which I will leave on the back table. I'm not going to speak a long time, but another issue, of course, is incarceration, because a number of our people end up incarcerated. And you know that if you read The Independent, there's an article that talks about realignment and the number of nonviolent, non-sexual, low impact, low crime individuals that are in jail. And the jail is just burgeoning with people, because the United States puts more people in jail than any other country in the world. We have more people in jail than one of the states in the United States. And so to that end, the states are going to be sending these low-level crime offenders, and many of them are, marijuana use, because in the 1980s, when the law was changed, a number of people are in jail because of minor offenses. And, far be it for us to look at others that are in jail, call them convicts, as has been put in the Independent, because someone said to me, once they come out, they're no longer convicts, they're individual citizens like you and I. 130,000, 2.3 million incarcerated Americans are mentally ill. Fact, the U.S. has more nonviolent offenders in prison than any in the entire population in prison in 1980. Most of these nonviolent offenders have been charged with drug-related offenses, and we spend over $11 billion to keep the drug violators in prison. Fact, while 20% of prisoners are incarcerated for drug offense, over 80% of inmates have a substance abuse problem. Our prison system has the capacity to provide treatment for only 5%. So no wonder the state is saying that we need to do something about this problem. And you all, being the creative-minded community with a deep consciousness, I know, concerned about this issue. We will be meeting next Monday, well, this coming Monday, behind the Phoenix House, which is off of Mitchell-Terena. I think it's 107 Mitchell-Terena. There is an alley called La Paz, and we'll be meeting there at 7 p.m. on Monday to try to deal with this issue and this crisis and come up with creative ways that we as the community can look at some of these issues and come up with some solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Awanja. I want to keep saying your name because I know she gets about 20 variations on pronunciation. Awanja. My sister. All right, so we're moving right along, and I believe now see, I didn't check. Ani, are you here? Ani Ahava. And some of you may know Ani because she is sort of the host with the most at the gallery down a few blocks down State Street, Anya Gallery, and holds regular poetry readings and other events of cultural interest to the community. Except this time I thought you said there was something going on with economics.
Tomorrow night. Yes.
Well, a little bit off the cultural aspects, right? But anyway, she's a poet. So tonight we welcome Ani Ahava.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hi. Change. I've been changing for 14.5 billion years. And the first poem is about that. I came from a star, elementally. I came from the sea, organically. I came from Africa, ancestrally. I came from Europe, racially. I came from Israel, spiritually. I came from Indiana, socially. I enter this now moment eternally. I am who I am momentarily. And the change that can happen in the twinkling of an eye. Before I retaliate, when I judge, I'll take a deep breath and glimpse eternity as I find my way to non-dual community. And then the little raindrop that becomes the ocean. I'm a little raindrop made in my mother's image. I'm just a little raindrop, no bigger than a tear, but my mother is the ocean, and so very big, and I'm so big in her. I'm a little no one, nobody much, that's me. I'm just a little no one. You've got to look twice to see. But I'm so loved just for who I am, nobody's who I'll be. 'Cause I'm a little raindrop made in my Father's image. I'm just a little raindrop, no bigger than a tear, but my Father is the ocean and so very big, and I'm so big in Him. I'm a little I am, daughter of the great I am. I'm just a little I am, small I, small a, small m. But when I am in the great I am, I'm all I need to be, 'cause I'm a little raindrop made in my mother's image. I'm just a little raindrop, no bigger than a tear, but my mother is the ocean and so very big, and I'm so big in her. And one more. The glass, half empty, half full. Have we resolved that yet? I don't think so, but I think this poem might. Well, come sip with me. What we have, we will share. The empty half of the cup makes room for giving. What we sip together from what we have will last forever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ani. And only one person who's reading tonight had a specific time certain, and that person has arrived for their time certain. And so, Melinda, you will, I'm sure you don't mind seating for a few moments, as I welcome our beloved ex-poet laureate, poet laureate emeritus, Barry Spax. Barry, come on now. Marcia, let me ask you, is there something you'd like to say with Barry? How about that?
I love Barry.
Barry is, as Sojourner mentioned, is and was our first poet laureate for the city of Santa Barbara. Yes, yes. His Buddhist background centers on the achievement of unification of everyday worldly actions with ultimate creative essence. Giving such aspiration a psychological, political turn, Barry's poem uses pleas, tease, prayer, and reasoning to support the desirability of a universal change toward lessened isolation via ethnic or racial category. Its essence is right there in the title. If we humans could only learn to realize how we are all so differently the same. Barry.
Thank you for that fine welcome. Health issues have prevented me from just coming earlier. I wish I could have heard some of the other poems. I've been here for about 20 minutes and just terribly moved by everything I heard. And so I thank Sojourner for setting me up at a special time. So differently the same. This poem has an epigraph from the Kentucky poet David Arnold, and David writes, "I wish I knew who I was, so I would know what to say." Also differently the same. Among the fine, healing changes for which we wish, I dream of more sanity of racial consciousness, so that each of us may strive not only to exist, but in Thich Nhat Hanh's phrase, to interbe, to sense how we share each other's nature as deep identity, the way the black comes up thick in me whenever it's denied, or how the green in me insists when my one face claims merely this, when my damnable correctitude grows stiff, denying my ignited heart's kaleidoscopic gist. I'm passion red and deep blue sad, I'm every hue. Please, reason, forge a change in the world mind, till we know we're both multiple and one at source, that even those among us most chartreuse are also Buddhist, poet, Palestinian, Jew. Oh, come complexly forward, baby, like we need you to, full of glory, for the colors were not cemented in, not tucked in one little sliver of the spectrum. I love the way the Dalai Lama laughs at our damned identity impasse. He says, we're all great humans in disguise. Yes, and if you keep breaking through to the basic first wisdom, that it's not the colors, no, it's the color wheel, the vast human color wheel that we should cherish. There's need for many training lifetimes, I guess, before such sanity can be broadly evoked, but it would make a start at least to suspect how our name tag forms the punchline of a joke. Likewise, those 627 polished opinions some would kill for, ludicrous. Oh, fellow sailors in the big boat of this universe, oh, sister passengers on our voyage under Big Star Country, oh, cousin mourners, oh, foster children who each deserve our care. Why wish to toss overboard the too much not exactly like we are? Why only reverence those who speak with our peculiar twang. Change, broadly partake. We're all people here, all varied and at one. And what a magnificent menu, 12 zillion miles long. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Barry and I are the same height, so we don't have to move the microphone. Our next poet is going to be Melinda Palacio. Melinda is going to read her poem, Outlaw Zone, which was published in the San Diego Poetry Annual 2011. Outlaw Zone explores the theme of immigration in Arizona and beyond. The poem works in tandem with her new novel, Ocotillo Dreams, which is just out from Arizona State University's bilingual press. The novel is set during the 1997 INS sweeps. Outlaw Zone addresses last year's law in Arizona, SB 1070. Melinda, please come up.
Thank you, Marcia and Sojouner. I've read this poem at this location, and I even think maybe following Barry's facts. And when I wrote this poem, maybe 2 years ago, I told myself I'm going to read this thing until I no longer have to. So I'm reading this again. Outlaw Zone. Arizona, lull me back to sun rays on mountains, full moon hikes and coyote cries, heat from windless days where people dared build cities in a desert. Don't piss me off, Arizona. Don't go back to those ugly years of no Dr. King days with your sweeps and roundups. Sounds like a rodeo, you know? Don't prey on your people, gente browner than an Arizona sunset. Shoes, you say. You can tell by their shoes. Shoes say it all. Inmigrante, illegal. Don't tell me where you came from or how the West was won or why you think Arizona, land of little water, choyas, bottle burst sage, ocotillos, saguaros is only for those whose skin burns pink. Arizona, add air to your name. Arizona, Arizona for legals. Arizona, Arizona, don't forget which country you come from. Thank you. And I'm also going to read and I'll do my little plug, as Marcia mentioned, my new novel, Ocotillo Dreams, is out, and I will be reading at Chaucer's on Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Tell us what happened when you did your book signing in Arizona.
There's all these little papers. I don't know if here. I read at the Changing Hands bookstore in Tempe, and it was a teaching moment for me. The newspaper and some of the online outlets had announced my book signing at Changing Hands, and within minutes of it going online, there were people commenting, and some very nasty and hateful comments about immigrants, about me, people that didn't know me, hadn't read my book. And so there was somebody with a gun icon who said, "Oh, why don't you go back where you came from," kind of thing. And I started panicking. I started thinking, "Oh, I don't want to go to this book signing. This was I remembered Congresswoman Gifford out in a public place, shot, but then my husband Steve sent out an email to everyone, and then friends started putting it on their Facebook, on Twitter, online, and there was so much outpouring of support that I really found strength in numbers, strength in everyone supporting me. And Luis Rodriguez told me, he said, if any of those people show up, you stay focused and you read. And I went, and there were tons of people. I mean, nobody knows who I am, and there were more than 60 people at this little bookshop, and they kept having to slide out the bookshelves and bring in more chairs, and it was just wonderful to see. So, thank you. And I'm appreciative of what Miss Lawson says. I'm not going to try to say her name, but what was it? Oanja. And I'm going to read a short poem from Folsom Lockdown, and these are poems that I wrote after visiting my father in Folsom Prison. And this is a poem that Perry likes. N24609, prison walls loom like a poker game with death. Electric metal crashes to a halt. Triple barbed wire and concrete lock me in. Pull the trigger on my own child. No, not me. Never. I'm innocent. Relive a father's mistake for the next 9 years. Footsteps pace and keys rattle while I sleep. Panama. Gangs call out to me. They sing like birds suffocating. N24609 is my number yelled at night. I whisper my name, Antonio. Remind myself I am a man. Thank you.
Sonny says his long-term goal is to have a positive effect on the way people treat each other, to eradicate race and racism in all. He wants to spread the practice of democracy as it should be, as it is stated in its definition. He wants to in some way help all the poverty-stricken communities, and if he does not have a direct effect on the changes that he wants to see, at least he will have put the hope, thought, or dream into people's heads that change is possible. Come on up.
It's a nice audience right now. I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the people that came out to support me. You know, I want to thank Sojouner for making this possible, for inviting me to this event, and everybody who came and helped set up and everything. So I want to make this brief. I have a few statements to make, a few quotes that I feel inspire me, a few quotes that I hold dear to heart. So I'm Hassani Simons, as she just introduced. I'm from Southern California, South Central LA to be specific. And I grew up in one of those poverty-stricken areas, so I know very much so what it's like. And a lot of people don't know what it's like to be poor, but I know. I also know what it's like to be rich because I dream about it. But rich people don't dream about being poor. But the good thing about it is I'm culturally rich, so that's the good thing about it. So one of a few of the quotes that I have here is the first one from Nelson Mandela. He said, "If I cannot change when circumstances demand it from me, how can I expect others?" Another one is from Dave Chappelle. This is economic-wise. He said, "How we are valuable is more important than how valuable we are." I have one more here by Martin Luther King. He said, "Faith is taking the first step without seeing the steps." So with that being said, I want to just recite this poem that I wrote about 2.5 years ago, and it symbolizes to me the changes that I went through, the struggles that I went through, and just let me say it, and y'all get it. So it's called My Struggles. So it's heavy blows from a hard life. Feel like I slipped and fell on the edge of a sharp knife. The pain that rages through my veins is a constant thing. I'm fighting demons every day, call it Constantine. To calm my nerves, they feed me excuse me, it's deep to me. To calm my nerves, they feed me weed mixed with nicotine. The police out here trying to shatter a young brother's dreams. Like growing up in a pen was a brother's dreams. You wouldn't even understand what a brother mean, or what a brother seen, and what a brother said. Or why them brothers out there wilding is cause they family dead. So don't deprive us, we some real survivors. When life is dead, we gonna use each other to revive us. We overcame a genocide, we some real riders. And it's faith and determination that inspire us. Hard work and some motivation, we'll be rising up onto a political level. Corporations lining up, my struggles. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassani. That was powerful. Our next poet is Richard Jarrett. Richard says, I think I write prayers for peace, that we might all row together and remember that there is no them anymore. Unto all mortals let there be equal grace. Richard, please come up.
It was great connecting with you, Sojouner. We hadn't met, and I've never seen her, and we both are from the same town, small town in North Carolina. Married. And I speculated that we were cousins, and she gave a very delicate pause after that and said, well, maybe if we go back far enough. I thank you for organizing this, and like the previous reader, thank you for thanking all the setup people, all the servers that serve us so well. Thank you for that moment. It was nice to see Barry again. Barry is very important to me personally. He furthered my last book, gave me great confidence in it, and said, and he edits me and has edited my next book vigorously and ruthlessly. I have 4 poems, 3 against war, and the last one perhaps as an antidepressant. I am over 60 years old. I have the right to write about war. My nation has been at war my entire life. Most of those wars engaging in for very evil purposes, on the wrong side of justice and righteousness. And we have a lot to atone for and a lot to change. And I want to push that wheel as best I can and welcome my brothers who have read earlier. This first poem I might frame for our purposes as my position. How many killed for cotton? Oil, terrible ideas. My feelings shoot out, but only so far. Some days I sense the worms of the earth at their work, and I see leaves trembling, feeling no greater than one worm, one leaf. The sea duck reads the passage of the Trident submarine with its feet and makes a little quack at the stars, bobbing above cold trenches and creatures flashing in the sonorous deeps. That's called the sea duck. This next poem is called Goldfish and Palette, Matisse, 1914. That is the title of his painting, which hangs in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. I was going to write one poem inspired by this painting, but it went a completely different way, as poems do. He was doing a self-portrait and copying Cézanne's self-portrait, but he erased himself and just left his thumb hooking a palette. And people have said, well, that ended up also in Picasso's painting of the Harlequin holding a palette. And the reviewer said it was like a baton that passed on from painter to painter. I thought that was fascinating. I'm going to write a poem about that. Oh, no. Goldfish and Palette, Matisse, 1914. Might frame this poem as the situation. It is said to have begun as a self-portrait after Cézanne. But Matisse erased himself from the scene leaving an empty balcony, some cubist abstractions, 2 goldfish in a bowl and his thumb hooking a white pellet. I believe that his mind was flowing out over the balcony as he disappeared, because 37 million people were about to die in a war. Close by, more millions of horses and mules, carrier pigeons, dogs, and that the self-portrait of a great artist in his moment would be the fragment of a man. And 2 fish, one studying the tangerine placed against the bowl with its left eye. Might frame this next poem as my reply to the situation in my position. This reply has taken 40 years to arrive. I never thought I'd write this poem. I thought it might quietly slip into my next book, but here we are. It's called Etiquette for an Ear. My friend showed me his war trophy. I didn't know what to say when presented with a slice of human flesh. I didn't know etiquette for the moment of an ear. Cradle the ear in your cupped hands. Look at it as long as necessary. Pray to your mouth to say something as valuable as silence, to be heard by the living and the dead, such that if the man or woman could be put back together to try again, he or she would want to. And now to get a little antidepressant poem. This is kind of a jazzy riff. It is called Living in Perilous Times and has an epigraph from Reuters news service. 6 inches of the seas have lifted into the sky and rained down. Living in perilous times. Late light pools on the twisty path. Woodpeckers nail evening shadows to trees. I was the baby of the family and never knew what was going on or why. John Coltrane said he would ask Thelonious Monk questions with his horn and get answers to questions he never thought to ask. Oh, this seems relevant to me. And the gray cat praising my Tai Chi, and the butterfly struggling to stay aloft. Last night, brother cat, the moon painted the blossoms on our old apple tree, and the great horned owl. Do you think this means we're going to be all right? Little cabbage white? Unless one owl closes one eye too many, and the entire dream unravels. I'm running along the same knife edge as the quail. Are you in love with your fine, forward curving plume, my friend? You can walk on the sun and the moon, where they've come all this way to lie down. Thank you.
I was just getting ready to compliment all the people who stayed so long. And I still will. I want to thank everybody. And we have one more segment to do in our marathon. I should have named this a marathon in the beginning, but I think that this has been Poets' Day. And I already saw online where the overall organizer, Michael Rothenberg, said as soon as today ends, they're going to start planning next year. And someone had asked, is this going to be an annual event? So I think they should rename it Poets' Day in the world. Anyway, Richard, thank you. And to discover that we're from the same hometown and really like less than like 10 blocks from each other, if you were counting blocks, it's amazing. But the other thing is we both escaped, huh? Anyhow, Thomas Boffman. Thomas. Oh, there's Thomas. And I would definitely give you the Patience Award, Thomas. Thank you very much for agreeing to come and speak a few words to us this evening. Thomas is a man of wisdom in our community, is the most I can say about him. I think, it's my compliment to you. But from every now and then, I'd say about every 6 months or so, I get a call from Thomas, Sister Sojourner, we need to talk. And he wants to talk about what we can do usually to uplift the youth in the community, to put on some sort of programs or to organize something or to do something to make a difference. And so he's a brother that I really admire, and I'd like to invite him to come up and have a few words with us. Thank you. Thomas Boffman.
Thank you, Sojourner, and everyone who's spoken tonight, and everybody who's ever worked for somebody else, unselfishly. There's always a question where to begin a conversation, and it seems to be a general theme of some kind of struggle being overcome, and something everyone has said. And I like to use something that's coming out of Gnosticism, out of the esoteric knowledge. It has nothing to do with skin color when I start speaking, so just bear with me. It goes like this. I am black as the night from which the dawn of a new day descends. I am past, present, and the future. I am the blended colors of life that light the bridge into the new age. I am the seed, the plant, and the flower. What this speaks to is that everything that is born and lives and grows in our world germinates in the darkness, in unseen territory. And it comes to life as a plant or as growth, and then it flowers. And this is the cycle we live in. And as far as speaking, it is the responsibility of anyone who's a writer or a poet to try to tap into our imagination, to turn other people on. So all the stories, it touched me so deeply tonight that I'd forgotten about poetry and the power of it. And I used to read a long time ago, and I'd like to thank you, Sojourner, because I've been re-inspired, because we have a responsibility. And if the people with the mindsets of the people in this room don't do the work to heal our planet, it won't get done. There will be no miraculous savior coming in to do it for us or none of this, because it has not happened yet. And so I want to thank everybody and encourage us all to continue the work, because one day when we're on the other side of life, which we call death, looking back, we don't want to be there with regret of what we could have done and didn't. This is where I put my faith and where I'm trying to move into life. And again, I just want to thank everyone for encouraging me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Our next poet is Jonathan Gomez. The working title of this poem is Some Questions Regarding My Peoples in the Fields. The poem covers a range of questions and issues regarding the lives of migrant farmers who work in the fields of present-day California. Jonathan says, we may be knowledgeable of the places from where much of the food that fills our refrigerators comes from, but seldom do we know the people who work the land that sprouts the vine, and less do we know about the harsh working conditions they face in the fields. Through this expression of love political words, he shines light on conditions that connection across race, gender, and time, and the urgency for solidarity with the workers to assist them in their moves to construct a different and humane tomorrow without hierarchy and exploitation. Jonathan.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction and reading that. Actually, I'm not going to read that poem after all. It's interesting the way that things work sometimes, and first of all, I'm from I'm a visitor to Santa Barbara by way of UC Santa Barbara. I'm beginning my 3rd year in a PhD program in sociology and emphasis in Black studies. And I study popular culture, race, space, class, and region, right? And basically, I went home and I visited some family members of mine in East LA. And I was hearing these kids talk, as I often hear people talk. I think that's like some people call it nosy. I think it's a gift, right? Sometimes I can hear some really interesting things on the bus, on the street, you know, and I go with the tempo of the time, right? And this one kid, for whatever reason, said that the president should ride on the bus with us so that he can make it better, right? And that's all I caught, right? And it just took my mind into this other place, and I started just thinking about that, not particularly with this, you know, with Obama, right? But in terms of who it is that becomes president, right? Who you know, what kind of social class that they come from, and the kinds of privilege that one must have experienced to be in a position to be elected as a political official like the President of the United States. So basically, I ran with it, and I don't have a title with it, but it's kind of going on that notion of becoming the President of the United States. And I must, before I read, I must thank everyone for coming out. I must thank everyone for organizing this, and it's something that should happen all the time, right? Because I think that, you know, poetry and poetics is so powerful. And basically, you know, a shout out to my inspirations in poetry, which is Raul Salinas and Audre Lorde, as well as a bunch of the Skid Row poets in Los Angeles. And I dedicate this piece to a dear mentor of mine who recently passed, Professor Clyde Woods, as well as Troy Davis. Before becoming President of the United States, a person should first pass obstacles faced by the people, the walking wounded and living dead among us, experience the worries of a welfare mother, forced to make the most out of the least, that to tell the drudgeries of being forced to the bottom of a class order. Experience what it takes to survive the third world conditions in the first. Walking into the fields before sunrise, welcome to pesticide to cut food from the earth in the shadows of the master's house. The psychological impacts of impoverishment and pain. Because before becoming president, a person should first know the stakes in losing the game when provided outdated rules that place other participants in positions to incarcerate then blame you, keep you economically poor, then say it's because your culture. They should know the torment of self-mended wounds caused from police dog bites sent into the home by the pens of politicians backed by the voters. ICE raids and gang injunctions that echo sound waves of agony to the days of chattel slavery, black codes and greaser acts, Operation Hammer and Gator Roll in Santa Barbara. Know the annoying noise of police helicopters before they come to circle the block and surveil the children's dreams. Because before becoming commander-in-chief, a person should have the cure for stings caused by being held captive to a lifetime of opening refrigerator doors to empty shelves. Cure the stinging, skittering sound of cucarachas running in the cupboards. Heal the irresponsibility of turning all the people who face structural problems into the problem. For if this were to happen, we'd be better able to materialize wishes of love, political solidarity. Take to heart the words of a Skid Row poet, and all of its power and self-determination create the conditions for the realization of the abolishment of the presidency and all political bureaucracy for a society that thrives on respect and nourishment for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Our next poet is Michelle DeTore. Michelle writes that her work explores gender, nature, interspecies friendships and relationships, power dynamics, the wonderful and the mundane. Most of her creative research has been in the areas of emancipatory social projects, feminist poetics, creating new resources in literary interventions against state violence and war, and visual, digital, intermediate poetry. She's invested in pursuing an activist poetics that is deeply engaged with linking the political project of community building with an experimental engagement with expressive language. Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this reading. It's just been feels like it's been a very special evening, and I'm just really grateful for it. Since we're short on time, I'm just going to read one poem, and speaking of time, this is from a series of poems that are meant to be sort of interventions against the corporate time theft well, maybe this is in solidarity with those who are occupying Wall Street right now. But I think a lot about time and its politics and who has time and who doesn't. This is called Ways to Die. Building bridges, falling into the ocean, measuring buildings, scraping smog, hacking animals into cellophane-wrapped cutlets, pouring plastic into molds, combs and buckets and handguns, following a tractor and catching teeth, picking strawberries or harvesting diamonds or grapes, mining coal, removing the tops of mountains, sewing dresses, disposing of nuclear waste, cleaning hotel rooms, waiting tables, pulling tobacco or trimming tea, dragging nets through dangerous seas, plucking feathers, pouring heat, painting cameras, assembling the tiny parts of things, satellites and lawnmowers and electronic devices, mixing powders, cooking pills, processing cements and fertilizers, forging semiconductors and wiring metals, packing batteries, getting tired, forgetting to eat. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, we are finally to the end of our program, and our final poet is going to be our wonderful Sojouner Kincaid Rolle. I want to say a few words about you. It's just going to take a second. Sojourner told you earlier that David called her a poet of conscience, which I love. I think that's a very apt description for Sojouner. She's also very passionate for social justice and change. She's been a change agent in this community for many, many years as a teacher with our children through Poets in the Schools, as an educator, as an organizer. She's done many events like this. Her annual evening in tribute to Langston Hughes is a wonderful, wonderful event, and I encourage you all to come next year when we do it again. And she is an amazing poet, and her latest collection is called Blackstreet, which was published by UCSB's Center for Black Studies. Was it a year ago? A couple of years ago? Anyway, I love that book, and I just love the poetry in it, and I'm very, very honored to say you're my friend and you're in my poetry group. I learn so much from you every time we get together. So without further ado, please welcome Sojouner Kincaid Rolle.
Well, you know, my husband is a photographer, and I always say that the reason he's a photographer is so he doesn't have to be in the picture. So, and sometimes, you know, it's hard to be introduced. But I appreciate those remarks. Thank you, Marcia, and thank you all my friends, and thank you everybody for coming. I mean, I really did try very hard to keep us on a really tight schedule. I worked hard on this timing thing, but here we are, a little bit long. So first I have a duty to perform, which is not mine, but a friend of mine, Laura Lynch, some of you may know Laura, is an artist in our community. And I met Laura, maybe another one I met about 21 years ago, but she used to work for the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and now she mainly works as an artist. And we have a really strong Facebook connection, and she uses Facebook as a way to express what she's passionate about. And a few weeks ago I noticed, maybe longer than that, that she had become very passionate about the nuclear plant, especially at the Diablo Canyon, and she really stepped it up after the earthquake in Japan and the danger that we all sort of live in on a daily basis in the midst of the nuclear plants of the world. So when we were doing this, and she had put up something on Facebook about the nuclear plant, I asked her if she would be interested in, I was hoping that she would come and show some of her art here at the event, that it would be on display. And she wrote back and said she thought she would create a piece. And I think just about 4 o'clock, she got these out from the printer this afternoon. And she brought 20 copies that she's donating to City at Peace. And they are for sale. They're signed by her.
Can you hold it towards the camera?
I certainly will.
Yeah.
And she is also, in the back of it is a letter that she's written to the County Board of Supervisors asking for the elimination of the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant in Morro Bay, or where is it? It's in Diablo Canyon, but it's outside San Luis Obispo by the ocean. And so I just wanted to say that, and I hope that each of you will at least stop and look at this piece of art and think about what it means and what it represents from the artist making this statement, and someone in our community who feels so passionately about this, and she is not alone. So I'm just going to read 2 short poems. I think they're short. The first one, I didn't have my page marked, and it's going to pop up here in just a second, because it's the thing I hate for poets to do, and you guys will forgive me for having done this. Because at the moment, I can't even think of the name of the poem. I just feel I have to read it, I have to read it. And it could be in another, okay, I'm gonna go to my second poem, which is printed out, so I don't have to look for it at the microphone while I'm taking precious time. I wanted it to be right here. All right, one last look.
You want me to look for it while you read?
Because I can't even think of the name of it. Okay, thank you, Katie. Thank you. Katie and I, well, you know what? I feel like every poet in the community, we go way back. So when you're among friends, you can be forgiven. So,
What's the first line?
I have no idea. Here again at Diablo. It is a poem. All right. So I'm going to read this one, and this poem is my poem of the week, and it's the poem that I posted in a piece that I put on Facebook, which I have, you know, people they have their different ways about Facebook, but I love it. And one of the things I want to say about this event is that we organized this event and invited people almost completely on Facebook. And I asked all of the poets to send flyers to their friends, and Michelle was very helpful in putting up an event page and a page, an event inviter and a page for 100,000 Poets of Change Santa Barbara. And I invited everybody on my Santa Barbara Facebook list, and I invited everyone else to do the same. And so we had over 700 or 800 invitations that went out to people on Facebook. Some of you responded that you were coming, which gave us great heart to know that people were saying, yes, we're coming to this event tonight. And when people said, well, was it in the paper? Did you get the press release out? We did it all by social media and email. So I think that's one of the things that really I want to say praises to, you know, our new technology and way of communicating with each other. And it's something that's still in our hands. Even though Facebook keeps changing, it's still in our hands that we can use this to communicate with one another. But the big event in America and in the world this week was the execution of Troy Anthony Davis in Jackson, Georgia. And we couldn't be there, but we were there. All of us were there in spirit and in heart. And I had a friend who was inside the vigil that was inside the gates of the prison, and who wrote a piece which I republished on Facebook. But when she wrote me the night before and told me she was going to the vigil, I decided I would be in vigil with her on that next day. And so I did spend the next day putting up notices, playing music, putting up YouTube songs, and other people joined in. So I just really feel that I made my contribution from where I was, and I know many people joined me in that, being in one spirit with Troy Davis as he went to this untimely, unconscionable, as I think Perry wrote on my Facebook, unimaginable occurrence. And I managed to finish a poem which I had started many, many years ago when I saw someone, standing outside of a prison, a family, waiting for their loved one to be executed, someone for whom it was questionable as to whether they were guilty of the crime. and it's called Grinding Slow. And of course, as in this one, there was all the wait. Is there going to be a stay? Is there going to be a pardon? It's not there.
It is.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to read this one. I'm going to read this one I started. Grinding Slow. Bitter roots, a clicking clock, relentless pace, the wheels don't stop. They stand aloof, souls disengaged, devoid of proof, consumed with rage. The whistle toots, small hope portends. In wrenching haste, the heart ascends. The question moot, is justice served? No death condoned, we stand affirmed. The owl hoots, the disconsolate scream. Amazing grace, still young can dream. The masked man shoots, the gate unhinged. We lost the race, the dead avenged. Everyone knows what's to be said about that. Here it is, The Blue Rock. I should have known it was that poem. And I will do it really quickly, and you have to imagine, as I usually do, that I have a rock from the beach at Montana de Oro in my palm. This blue stone once lay like any other pebble on a rock-infested beach. Now it warms my palm, a tiny remembrance of a day by the sea and my small bow. This rock once lay in the shadow of Diablo, near groves where sojourning monarchs suckle, near roads where guardians of the earth stood and were arrested. I lie in the same loam, wallowing among the blue rocks, awaiting the gritty water, the sacred cleansing, sanding my body, smoothing my spirit, preparing for my watch. And if that poem were to have an epigraph, it would be, they also serve who only stand and wait. Thank you all for being so patient. And I thank all my volunteers, all the people who showed up and helped. And I hope that you have 1 ounce of energy, because we have to pick up these chairs and put away those cups and put these tables down and leave this gallery as it was when we got here at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Hey, we're here at the CAF in Santa Barbara, Cal, upstairs Paseo Nuevo. That was a great show. I was the open mic talent. Probably the worst of it all. Boy, there were some good folks at this thing.